So I wanted to talk about the new show from Apple TV called Pluribus. By the time of writing this, I had just come off my high from watching Stranger Things, and I decided I'd log on to Amazon Prime and watch this new show that was gaining a bit of traction online. When I first started watching Pluribus, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I had seen clips from the trailer where there was this woman in this crowd of people and she's scared, she's panicking, there's some kind of danger that she's running from, and we don't really know where the danger is. Personally, and I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but I find it really hard to invest my interest into a show where the trailer has a lot of momentum or where there's a lot going on. And I find myself in this weird conundrum where I realise the more I keep asking myself questions about the characters and what's going on and who's this and this and this, I end up not watching it and resort to watching something familiar instead. Something where the show hooks me by how it looks, something that is stylistically artistic. And maybe some of you find this juvenile, and believe me, I've thought about this too. In a couple months' time, I will be 25 years old, and the thought of that has definitely kept me up at night. But I'd also be lying if this wasn't what drew me to some of the most popular shows in the world, and what likely draws most people to them as well. Stranger Things has had 10 years to create its own artistic stylization. Arcane and Squid Games, which have been renewed for multiple seasons, are drenched in artistic stylization. So imagine my surprise when I go onto Amazon Prime, press play on the first episode of Pluribus, and I see this dark, moonlit night sky in the desert, and the focus of that scene is satellite dishes. Wow, what an interesting opener, because there are a lot of instances in the first episode that could have opened the episode like this, or this, or this. But no, instead we get satellites. Why? Why open on satellites? Why is the first scene 439 days before the joining? Why is the first character we meet not our main character? It's this guy, just some random scientist. Why are we getting familiar with these characters even though we'll never see them again? Why? And this is because the show is establishing its theme here, specifically its themes of isolation, connection, and communication. The literal driving force behind why this other scientist drives out to the desert in the middle of the night is because this scientist has received an encrypted message from the others. And so in the morning, we see more and more scientists enter the study until it's packed, and they're all trying to understand what this message says, and we see them intellectually assimilate. And this is when we realise that the first scientist we meet isn't just some random scientist, that he is our first subtextual representation of the others. He is the one who's the most excited, the most certain about the message being extraterrestrial.
There's gotta be something bouncing off the...
It's not bouncing off the moon, Dave.
The one who denounces any alternative speculation it could be an interception from radio frequencies.
Maybe it's those chatty Cathys at the Forest Service. I hate those guys, always on their radios talking about trees.
Dave, it's not Smokey Bear we're picking up. Look at that signal. It's drifting.
What is it then?
He's the one who realises the message isn't quaternary, it's not a four-worded message, it's not aliens trying to verbally communicate with Earth.
It's not quaternary. I think I know what it is.
It's the chemical compounds of a radioactive extraterrestrial virus. This is why the next scene we see the medical workers creating this virus and spreading it to the rats via radiation, and how later in the episode, Helen dies just by looking at her phone. Even though we never see the scientist again for the rest of the episode, he is the audience's first real insight into the ambivalent curiosity that is the others. From the eeriness of his excitement to his empathetic underestimation that this extraterrestrial message could be dangerous in any certain way.
You go to all that trouble to send a message. It's gotta be more than just hello.
The same kind of empathetic underestimation we later see again with the scientist trying to resuscitate a rat and it bites her, starting the joining, or like when Carol empathetically underestimates the danger of trying to help the driver and it causes her to separate from Helen before she dies. Pluribus spends its first episode establishing that empathetic underestimation is what will inevitably lead to downfall, to negligence, to infection, to death. So what do we do about this? How do we survive this? How do we survive this new world that smells at you impassively, that looks you dead in the eye and tell you, we never wanted you to die, but we didn't expect you to live either. We didn't expect you to send a message, to bite the hand that allows you to keep your life, to try save a life that was already long gone to the detriment of the life you could have saved. If the others represent conformity and assimilation of society, then Carol is what happens when a person breaks away from the hive mind. When we first meet Carol, she is already living this assimilated, conformist lifestyle where she sells books about a heterosexual romance with a love interest she resents, with an audience that are absolutely obsessed with figuring out if that love interest returns so they can all keep indulging in this erotic fantasy she's created. And obviously there's nothing wrong with enjoying erotic fiction, but we see how monotonous this life has become for her. It's repetitious to the point it's almost cringeworthy. And I can imagine this is probably relatable for any well-established author or artist or performer, to have your skills and talent regulated to a single aspect of your work, to be stuck in a niche that you have professionally moved on from after years, even decades, but the rest of the world, the people that consume your art, have not. But when the opportunity for Carol to renounce that conformist lifestyle presents itself, she refuses it.
Maybe it's time for your serious book. Why not? You've been plugging away on it for 5 years. 4.5, barely.
She chooses to continue wearing the mask, and that's the moment when everything goes wrong. When reality breaks the mask for her, and now her conformist lifestyle is no longer just psychological, it's external and it infects everyone around her. It's not something she can switch off from when she's alone in her car, or in a bar, or in her home with her partner. It's literal, and it follows her through the streets and into her home, and now it's not just affecting her life, but the whole world. She doesn't have Helen anymore to accompany her in her lonely, assimilated conformist lifestyle. She is completely alone, with the source of what's causing her isolation telling her, dressed in a suit on national television, saying everything is going to be okay when it very clearly won't. And no, the irony of this scene is not lost on me.
We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side.
Between 4:17 and 4:22 p.m, Trump issued this video message on January 6, 2021, where over 20,000 people raided the US Capitol after Donald Trump lost the 2020 president election to Joe Biden 2 months prior. Watching back the footage of that day, you can see rioters break their way through glass windows in the Senate wing and the doors of the front entrance of the Capitol, resisting police officers and hunting for congressmen and women who had barricaded themselves in their offices and in the main chamber. In the aftermath of the attack, 174 officers were injured that day, and 5 people, including a police officer, tragically lost their lives in the riot. It would then be 7 months after the siege that 4 officers would take their own lives. And as of recording this script on the 25th of January 2026, it will be just over 5 years since Trump's speech and the insurrection took place. And that is not a long time, but it feels like it is because this is the power of placating. Trump's speech in that video was to placate his followers into surrendering their siege.
We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil.
But it is also an admonishment of accountability after years of rising tensions between socio-economic groups that boiled over during the insurrection, and we see this represented in the others.
Your life is your own. Please know that. Your well-being is of utmost importance to us. Completely up to you, of course, but you might want to stick close to home for the next few days. We've a lot to clean up, and it may be distressing for you to see, but we will put things right.
In both cases, Trump and the others gaslight their listeners into denying the dangers of their reality, that reality is not as bad as it is, that the death rate was unavoidable, that it's okay we started fires because we have the extinguishers to put them out. And whether the others know this or not, this is what it weaponizes against Carol. Only now it's to make her conform and assimilate to their reality, to allow her to live but not to connect with the multi-dimensional facets of life. In the other's new world, class structure and discrimination no longer exist, but neither does the necessary conflict to inspire growth, the complications of having to understand another human being, the emotional labour that is required to maintain relationships and produce new ones. The other's world, in all its idealism, does not allow for accountability, and that is what Carol is trying to restore, not just to the human race, but to herself as well for not living authentically while Helen was alive. Okay, we're done. I'm done.